responsibilities and management of consulting firms. Abdallah is also well known in Middle East because he was a pioneer in enterprise architecture with TOGAF courses and many successful projects also. Abdallah also takes time to teach and help young to grow. Abdallah, is it good on your side?
Yes, good morning everyone, and thank you for having me on this event. It's a pleasure to be here and to answer as many questions as we can, and looking forward to the discussions. Thank you.
So, in name of Mega International, thank you very much, dear experts, to participate and to share your experiences. Dear audience, it's time for you to work. Sorry. You need to type in Livestorm your questions under the dedicated tab present on the screen. Thank you very much for your interest and for your questions. It's necessary to have those questions to get a great session. In the meanwhile, I start with the first one to Leslie and Abdallah. Dear expert, can you share 4 advice, tips or best practice regarding how to initiate an EA project? I would like to answer one after the other, and let's start with Leslie.
Sure, thanks. I'd say the first thing that comes to mind is to start with what's essential. So to not get too bogged down by all the things you could do, and try to identify first what you should do. So what is what you should do? What's the essential? It's what's addressing the current business needs of your organization. So what are the problems or challenges that are strategic right now, not maybe at some point, and that allows you to get your scope so that you have more chances to be able to demonstrate success in a short time and then build upon that baseline. So I would say start with what's essential by defining what's essential with your stakeholders. That would be my first key point.
Thanks, and Abdallah, do you want to share one of your tips or best practice?
Yeah, I believe if I have to choose 4 key advices on how to launch an EA program, I would say it's very important to understand the strategic context that would enable the success of enterprise architecture. So how EA will contribute to the strategy of the organization. That's very important. 2 is to make sure that you have a strong sponsorship and a clear understanding of what value you will bring to the different stakeholders that you are supposed to support. So ensure that this element also is addressed properly. The third element is really to understand that great success cannot be built in one day. So how you are going to phase that success, this quick win that is essential to create the initial belief and to give you some momentum to grow into a more strategic value contribution to the organization. And last but not least is make sure that you have you are not only accountable, but you are empowered to make things happen, which means that there are certain obligations on the organization side that are essential for you to launch this EA project. So unless those elements are in place, for example, having a clear mandate for your enterprise architecture practice, your organization structure, the competencies and the tooling, maybe it is those are the elements that are required to ensure you can act on your accountability.
Thank you very much. So I see the first question coming in the questions tab. Thank you very much. Please fill it because I will try to analyze the question during the expert answers regarding the 4 advice and tips. And I will try to group by theme. It's possible. So we have already 2 answers, maybe a third one, Leslie, regarding a tip or?
Sure, my pleasure. So another key point would be to not try to reinvent the wheel. So when you're trying to start any project, but specifically for EA, is leverage what you already have, because even when you're starting from zero, I'm sure you're not starting from zero. So connecting up with the different stakeholders that are inside the organization that might already have in other formats, they might be Visio drawings or Excel spreadsheets, or even perhaps other tools that have been used to manage some of this information, to recuperate existing information. Also, there's a lot of standards and existing information out there, like APQC list of processes, or connectors that you could lean on that would give you starting points for a certain number of information, like for your constructing your capability map, just to not feel like you're alone in all this. You've got big organizations out there that have already capitalized on some key elements. So inside the organization, specific to your context, but also outside to initiate the data. Because I think one of the key things to succeed in your quick start is that you have content and pertinent content. So I would say that would be a key point.
A good one. So question tabs is fading. Please do not hesitate to ask your question regarding the project, EA, what can be rapid or not, or what is success. I have already a few questions regarding pitfalls, regarding value, regarding, so it's coming. Thank you very much. So the fourth tip maybe for you, Abdallah, if you agree, if you want to add one.
Which element, Jean-François? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you want to share a fourth tips or best practice regarding how to start an EA project?
Yeah, I think there was a question around the EA value, which is an important element of how to start an EA project, because I think you can never justify an investment without clarity about the outcome. And on this front, I would like to highlight that there's a misconception that enterprise architecture has one practice, if you want. While in fact, if you look at the modern way of applying enterprise architecture, we can see 4 types of architecture, and each type of architecture actually addresses a different value. So just to simplify this, enterprise architecture is an enabler for the end-to-end transformation lifecycle. So during the transformation planning, the enterprise architecture practice plays the role of the protector for strategic alignment of the transformation roadmap with the organization's strategic objectives and with the business capability development priorities of the organization. So the first value, if you are doing architecture at strategy level, is this strategic protection, ensuring that alignment. Now, once the roadmap is developed, the next step is really to start acquiring solutions or developing the capabilities. So in this stage, which is the acquisition stage of the transformation lifecycle, the role of the architect is investment protection, which means protecting the organization from investing in either duplicate capabilities or less important priorities or technologies that are not necessarily within the standards and compliant with the principles of the organization. Now, the third stage and the third type of architecture is what we call a solution level architecture. So once we have selected the solution and we go to the implementation level, the role of the architect becomes what we call technical protection, which means ensuring that the implemented solution actually incorporates the standards and the principles, or what we call architecture specifications, into the actual implemented solution. So this guarantees that what goes to production is compliant and in alignment with the architecture governance specifications. Now, once this goes to production, the role of the architect is to ensure operational protection, protecting the organization from 3 dimensions: total cost of ownership, business continuity, and quality of IT services. So this allows you to understand the total contribution of EA across the 4 stages of the transformation with clear value contribution at each stage.
Thank you very much, Abdallah, Leslie. So I will pick a first question regarding another topic than value. We will come back on this very important one later. I like this one. Do you think that EA practice could be started from the side of business and not from IT?
That is nice.
Nice one.
It's true that typically you're coming in the door of IT rationalization, bringing you visibility to IT, and you get that buy-in, and it's harder to pull in the business side. So that is a cool question. I could imagine that from the business side, if you have identified strategy, the key value streams, so what's the reason to be of the organization, what are the needs from the business, and that to fulfill those, they're in a pull mode, saying we need something that's going to enable us to achieve these things most efficiently possible. And I think that would be fantastic, even ideal. I've never really seen it that it comes from that side. But that could really help to more easily identify where the focus should be happening on the EA initiatives. But on any account, even if you're going to start from that side, you need to implicate the key players on the IT side as well. So those that have that responsibility on the IT portfolios, managing also the IT security risk, the elements that are fairly technical, because you need to consider all of that. You can't just serve the business all the time. You need to protect the organization from, I really liked your protection description, Abdallah. I like those keywords. Because sometimes a part of the roadmap and a part of the EA work is not something that's directly, immediately visible to the business. So you're trying to find that happy medium between the needs that they've identified and expressed, and it's fantastic when they can make that clear. And pure IT topics like avoiding obsolescence risk or managing IT costs, I mean, those aren't direct prerogatives of the business side. And I also really liked in the intro and our initial, tips, when Abdallah, you were talking a lot about the implication of stakeholders, whether you're coming in the IT door or in the business door. Once you hit that EA space, you need to implicate from both sides the key players that are those with the need, those that are representing the need, and those that are representing the mandate and empowering us to go through with the initiatives, so that we can have that follow through and on the other side. So management, direction, the top of the CIO, the CFO, the risk management side, etc. Abdallah, what do you think about this question?
Well, I have to admit that I agree with you. I've never seen the word enterprise architecture being created outside the IT. However, I have seen practices that have evolved from a different terminology to become enterprise architects outside the IT organizations, or IT architecture practices that have evolved in value to become a true partner, not only from a digital perspective, but also from an innovation perspective. The two I've seen in the business that are not called architecture, but are actually centered around the architecture value are the business excellence practices and more recently, the digital innovation practices. In the digital innovation practices, organizations usually use design thinking. And if you look at the design thinking process, it actually decomposes the innovation cycle around 3 key perspectives. One is the organizational model of the enterprise. So this covers things like your processes, your organization structure, your partnerships and collaborations. You have the product and service, and this is usually where you look at the criteria of the product and the functionality of the product or service you offer. And you have the customer experience area. So when you use design thinking, it is inevitable to actually adopt an architecture-centric fabric, even though you don't call it architecture. However, this connected view gives you the ability to understand the context of the problem you are trying to address. It allows you to understand the construct of the elements that impact that problem that you are trying to solve. And more importantly, it gives you a structured approach that ensures completeness of the analysis and correctness of the interactions, because any problem we try to solve is a closed system. And in closed systems, the integration of the components plays a very important role in defining the final outcome and the success of that outcome. So it's about understanding the components, their relationships, and the principles and standards that affect their interaction within the closed system.
I want to bounce off what you're saying there, Abdallah, because now that you've said that, it makes me think that there are cases where there's a starting point with quality management systems. So, or there's like a understanding our processes, process improvement systems. So those activities that don't call themselves EA can moving towards sometimes, okay, so what do we need? What technological aspects are we leaning on in order for those processes to work? Can sometimes be initiators or starters to do more EA. Because just the definition of EA, we could talk hours about that, exactly where it's positioned. But yeah, I agree with you that there are some things happening that we aren't given the word EA, but that grow into that in the end, that can come from that side.
Actually, just one last comment.
A very nice question about it. Should we look at a different title, name for EA?
Let me share with you a very interesting experience I had back in the late 90s when I was working with Pepsi. Pepsi International wanted to improve their logistics and manufacturing operations. So they came to us and said, look, guys, we want you to document your processes. We're talking 98, 99. So we did this documentation. They came and said, this is level 0. Now we want you to define KPIs. So we defined KPIs. They said, now you're level 1. Now they said, we want you to analyze the KPIs outcomes. What I meant is at the end of this project, they came back to us and said, we just did 6 Sigma, but you didn't need to know that it is 6 Sigma. What matters is the outcome. So to put this back into the context of what we're doing, we don't have to really worry about what we call enterprise architecture. What is fundamental and is like an axiom. It's something you cannot describe, but it is a fact. You cannot make any change unless you understand the construct of what you are changing. And to understand that construct, again, you have to understand the components, the relationships, and the principles that govern how those components interact. So architecture, whether we name it or we don't, is at the center of every improvement initiative we do. Whether it comes from the business through a process innovation exercise or an improvement in internal control or a hardening in our data governance, ultimately at the core, there is the need to understand the connected view of the problem and to understand the relationships and the principles and standards that should be complied with. So it is inevitable if you want to manage change to apply enterprise architecture. It doesn't matter whether we call it so or not.
I totally agree. But I happen to personally think it's a fantastic name for what it embodies, because it's a very englobing, it covers a wide scope, enterprise architecture. So I couldn't imagine another way to say it that wouldn't reduce too much its coverage, because it's not only wide, it's deep. You've got the different aspects, like you said, data, risk, process, IT, and then all the interconnectedness between those. I don't have a better name for it.
Well, Jean-François, allow me just one.
Very often about transformation, and we have some questions about it.
Okay.
One of them is an EA placement on the digital transformation structure. How best can EA be placed to be an enabler for e-service implementation for ministries or large groups? So,
say the question again. How can EA be best placed in a transformation?
Be an enabler for e-service implementation for ministries. So you move to digital.
Right.
In this context. So it's a classical topic today regarding the go to digital. So automation, things like this. Ourselves, we work on this with OPEX.
Jean-François, maybe because I come from the GCC region, I've seen a lot of architecture practices starting around e-services. It was a national drive in KSA, for example, in Saudi Arabia, and there was a full program built around this. So if you allow me, just I will use this question to introduce something that sometimes we miss in analyzing the depth of the architecture practice, because I think this question is really about the depth. From experience, and both as CIO or in the consulting space of enterprise architecture, I have seen three levels of architecture, three levels of depth in the architecture process. The most visible one, the tip of the iceberg, is usually the IT portfolio management role of the architect. So this is where the architects focus more on inventory, analysis of the inventory, rationalization, and mainly around the topics like application, business capability enablement, technology obsolescence, and other maybe compliance aspects. And while this is really quick, this is clean, and this has tangible outcome, the challenge of it is it depends a lot on the data acquisition and data maintenance. And as we all know, this is a key challenge in enterprise architecture. So the next level of role of the architect is where they go at the project level. And this is where e-services comes in. So if we start architecting for projects and for solutions, we will need capabilities that are not portfolio specific, they are modeling centric. So the ability to leverage frameworks like TOGAF, like Zachman, like UML, Archimate, and others to model the project components or the solution specific components. And this is a very interesting aspect because not many of the tools that support the portfolio have the depth to grow with the depth of the architect's role and go down to enabling that modeling centric responsibility. Now, what's more interesting is the third level, because that third level is where you anchor the architecture, not only operationally, but also culturally within an organization. And that's where you operationalize EA, where EA becomes a service function, and your EA tool becomes like your service desk in the IT service management. So this is where you incorporate the automation of your EA operations into the platform, and you build those on top of the content that you deal with. It's not about creating an as-is or a to-be for a solution. It's about building an architecture vision. So that's a service. So what I can, just to summarize, we have three levels of depth in architecture: the IT portfolio management, the IT architecture, and the IT operational automation. And I think unless you reach the third level, you cannot anchor the EA within an organization's fabric.
Great. So listening to you and reading the question, I pick this one. Need we start by providing tools first and then looking for sponsor and ambassador to demonstrate the added value, or need to take it in the other directions?
take it in the other direction. You don't, you need to imply some key stakeholders even when you're constructing your first value proposition, because you need to have like I said earlier, key representatives of the need, and some kind of those that would be good candidates to co-construct this first MVP. Okay, and I think the pilot approaches are a really strong way to go. But to do a pilot, you need to have all the people in the room from the get-go. To be able to be outcome-oriented, you need to be able to define with them what would be those initial outcomes that would serve you. And so these are not just the people who would be consuming what you're doing, but also that would be providing the key information. So I don't think that it's the smart way to go to be alone, imagine something, and then try to go sell it. I think co-construction is stronger and more likely for success, but on being careful on your scope. And when I say scope, I'm talking how wide and how deep, so that you can demonstrate the success with that, and also experiment to adjust afterwards. And then you've got someone or other people in the organization that are going to even be promoting for you the value that you've already brought. And if you involve them too late, you're not giving them the chance to really do that. I'm sure, I believe that, but Abdullah, you agree.
No, I fully agree with you, but I would like to add that understanding the landscape of your stakeholders is a key element. This is why I mentioned it in the establishment of the EA initiative. But you cannot treat all your stakeholders the same way. So it's very important you understand the level of contribution of the EA to those stakeholders. You understand the impact of those stakeholders on your progression towards the maturity level and the value that you want to achieve over time. And it is essential you set a strategy that moves you from, let me say, collaboration to strategic partnership. And by this, I mean that usually what we tend to do is we understand what the stakeholder wants. We convert this into a set of business outcomes. We collect the viewpoints, the data that is required to build those outcomes. And then we forget that the data over time actually changes. So how do we move from collaboration to true partnership? It's by using a use case driven approach. And the beauty of what we have done with Mega, and I allow myself to say we, as you know, I've been a partner with Mega for over 15 years. So the beauty of what Mega did is that it encapsulated over 20 use cases into the platform. So today, if I want to onboard the process people, I don't just go and promise them to document what they are documenting elsewhere. I can today promise them to automate their practice on top of automating their content. And more importantly, I can enrich their practice with the AI-generated business outcomes. So what I'm offering them is to onboard them onto the Mega platform so their contribution becomes part of how they do their day-to-day job. And the last and but not least value addition is that they can exploit the data of other stakeholders while making their data valuable to other stakeholders. And I think with that in mind, we can set what I call stakeholder acquisition strategy, which means that I have to set the priority for what stakeholders I need. But for each stakeholder within that strategy, I need to put a plan to move him from collaborator to partner. And I think that's the combination that ensures sustainability.
We spoke about value, stakeholder, and so on. There is a lot of questions about it, so we will answer within the paper to each question, as explained at the beginning. Some elements come now also to underline in the title the rapid aspect. How to be rapid. This is, I think, very often an issue by the past. So we work on a regular basis on this. So I see several questions, how to be rapid. I see another one is AI a way to populate and maintain the repository up to date? What strategy to adopt allow quick win? I would like to
that's a really
to
good
have
topic.
your point of view on this aspect.
I'd love to start on that. So it's good to be quick, but you need to be quick and pertinent. So don't just, get stuff to show stuff. Okay, so back to my first response to the very beginning of this session, you manipulate the notions that matter. Okay. What's great is with HopeX, you've got a lot of accelerators that you can lean on to already in the tool with the to do data load connectors with the kind of the integrated approach we have with HopeX through REST APIs and GraphQL to recuperate some key data from other repositories that might exist in other formats. And as I also said in the introduction, you can lean on other sources of content such as UCF for compliance and requirements, the APQC or for the processes, buy-in for the capability maps. So to get efficient quickly, to go quickly, you need content quickly. So that would be a first step. A second aspect is when it comes to drawing, sometimes there's a little debate. Drawing takes time. Do we have to draw things all the time? What's the point of drawing? Drawing is just a part of modeling. Modeling is just representing a complex reality in a way that allows us to get our hands on it and benefit from the impact analysis and to leverage what we're, being able to represent things and discuss them and work with them, understand them so we can evolve them. Don't necessarily set a too high ambition to visually model everything, but don't forget that visualization and the visual is a really strong communication tool. So something that's really helpful in HopeX is for a lot of different types of the use cases, we have the ability to generate automatically diagrams based off of content and processes in data models, etc., which gives you a good, quicker start of visually representing that content. Another way to go quickly is to lean on templates such as our 360 portal for communication elements, because in your first pilot project, you want to show results quickly. If you're a group of people, project people who really did some amazing things, but nobody knows about it, you're not going to take off quickly. So having a part of the key baseline is having that communication tool that, thanks to what we've proposed through this template, the portal, it's plug and play, and you've got it right off the get-go. AI is definitely a strong way to also accelerate these steps. So when you are once you've collected, for example, in ITPM, some content, you say, well, what do I do with this content? How does that help me make decisions? In the Smart EA that's in the more recent versions of HopeX, you get propositions from the tool based off of the different elements that are at its disposition about where does HopeX believe that it's positioned on your capabilities, and then all you have to do is say, yes, I agree with what this AI is proposing to me. So AI is helping, and integrated EA, connected EA can help you get more content more quickly, communicate on the content more quickly, represent it in different ways through the visualizations, dashboarding, automatic diagrams more quickly, and then even support the business decisions. But you can't do everything automated and quickly. You need people with the right, human involvement on all the different steps of the chain, because that's also what's going to help continue to maintain the focus. And because an organization is full of people, and if you really want to reach those people and make real change, then you need to involve them and involve yourself. So you can't, there is no fantastic EA project with a big success that was just button pushed. You have to involve, it's required, especially for that, also the data maintenance part. So we talk about going quickly, but it shouldn't go quick explosion and then fizzle out. You have to be putting in place in your explosion, which is exciting and beautiful fireworks. The governance is going to help maintain as you move forward, the implications of the different decentralized, contributive approach on the people who have the knowledge and have the feedback, technically, functionally, to continue to nourish the system to maintain quality and completeness. Without that, you will fizzle out. So when I hear the word quick, I don't think I'd be concerned about quick and dirty. or quick and then just as quick as it came, quick it went. So to keep those considerations and then leverage these different accelerators.
I think just to quickly, I think we call those the connected, automated, intelligent approach. We can add to it the integrated as well. But I would like to add 3 key factors that really make this quicker. One is focus. So if you make the focus of the architecture smaller, you can be faster. 2 is relevance. Going fast without being relevant to a stakeholder or to a certain value is also might affect the ability to achieve. And 3, I will never stress enough the importance of communication. Communication is showing and demonstrating how you are adding value. So if you add those 3, focus, relevance, and communication, to the 4 key elements, which are connected, automated, intelligent, and integrated, I think you have the factors of a quick success.
For the last minutes, I would like to propose a question regarding kind of sum up of several questions. What is your recommendation to deploy EA in a group? Will you start by the group capability or by subsidiaries? I have several questions about it. I think it's a good question.
Both. Well, I think that if you need some key information from top up, because if you don't have the key reason to be of the organization, so kind of what is the main value streams, the main capabilities, then you're going to be working towards what? I think you need some key elements from up high, but the actual quick start project, pilot project, needs to take something concrete. So a specific zone that would be, so for me, it's kind of you do bottom up, top down kind of a debate. I think you need a little pieces of both, or else you risk to not be pertinent or be too much, missing the mark. But if you're too high level, if you're just in the corporate, like main company side, then you're not going to be connected to what's really happening out there operationally. So your thoughts, Abdallah?
Yeah, I think there are 2 key elements that are required. One is understanding the stakeholders to understand the priority. And I think 2 is also to understand the level of tolerance. So unless we have those 2 elements, it's difficult to make a decision. But I've seen corporate groups in the Middle East, some of the largest groups, start by at the holding to set the governance to drive the operating companies' architecture programs. So I've seen it start from top and go down to the operating companies.
Thank you
very much to attend. We have so much questions, so we will answer in a note and send it to you. Thank you very much to attend. From my point of view as a mega fellow, to start and be rapid and successful, use OPEX Aquila.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to do this with you guys today.
Same here.
And I hope you guys enjoy the session.
See you soon, Abdallah.
Oh, wow. Bye. Bye-bye.